Why the dismantling of the Department of Education matters, especially for urban and rural schools. What's happening? On Thursday, Trump signed an executive order to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. They're saying the government shouldn't be involved in schools and that decisions should be left to states. Sounds nice on paper to some people, but here's what they're really doing. They're removing federal protections, funding, and accountability. The things that hold states and districts to equitable standards and protect vulnerable kids. Who gets hurt the most? Urban schools, already underfunded, overcrowded, and often dealing with systemic inequities. The Department of Education, Title I funding for low-income students, IDEA funds for special education, civil rights protections, and accountability for things like racial disparities in discipline and achievement gaps. Without the Department of Education, there's no one holding states accountable for how they treat students of color, multilingual learners, or kids in poverty. Vouchers drain even more money away from already struggling public schools. They love to say, we need school choice, but when your neighborhood school is barely functioning because all the funding got yanked, what choice do you really have? Rural schools, often single school districts, they don't have options like charter schools or private schools nearby. These schools are already under-resourced and rely on federal funding for basics like lunch programs, broadband, school nurses, and mental health services. If the DOE is gone and voucher programs spread like telling rural families to use a coupon at a store that doesn't exist. Plus, rural kids also need protections for students with disabilities, ESL services, and access to AP classes, things that federal programs help support. Rural communities are being set up for failure too, but folks don't realize it until their kids are forced to learn from outdated textbooks or lose access to advanced classes. The voucher scheme, follow the money. Vouchers give public money to private and religious schools, often without requiring them to follow the same rules as public schools. Many of those private schools can reject students with disabilities, LGBTQ plus kids, or those who don't fit their moral code. There's little transparency, no reporting on academic outcomes or how the money is spent. In some states, we've already seen public schools lose millions in funding, while wealthy families use vouchers to subsidize elite private tuition. This isn't about helping poor kids escape bad schools. It's about defunding public education until it breaks, and then blaming teachers when it does. What the Department of Education actually does? It protects students' civil rights, Title IX, racial, gender, ability discrimination. It enforces the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, the term that Linda McMahon didn't know what it meant. It collects national data on student outcomes so we can see what's working and what's not. It supports teacher training, innovation grants, Pell grants, and so much more. Take that away and you've got 50 different systems with no guarantees, no equity, and no justice. As a teacher, let me tell you what dismantling the Department of Education really means. No more Title I money, no more civil rights enforcements, no more special education protections. That means your school, your kid's school, your cousin's school, urban or rural, gets left behind. And then they hand a voucher to the wealthiest families and say, good luck. That's not school choice, that's a setup. 92% of public school funding comes from state and local sources. But Title I, the Department of Education provides billions to low-income students. Over 26 million students rely on Title I funding. IDEA, special education, supports 7.5 million students across the United States. Cutting this would leave schools without resources for IEPs or support services. Voucher programs hurt public schools. In Ohio, public schools lost $900 million in 1 year to vouchers. You concerned about where the money's going and spent? How about wasted on vouchers? Fly-by-night private schools open up just to get voucher money with no accountability. Only 1 in 6 private schools in a voucher program offer accommodations for students with disabilities. And rural schools suffer too. Over 50% of U.S. school districts are rural. Many rural schools are already operating on tight budgets and can't afford to lose more funding or students to voucher schemes. Only 15% of rural area schools have access to a private school within 10 miles. So a voucher is a worthless coupon for most. A voucher is just another name for a coupon. When is the last time a coupon covered the full cost of anything? I'm just saying.